You're with Julian on the Brown Note and a review of the latest 28 film, as in 28 Days Later, which came out in 2002, and one of the most influential films of this century in that it redefined the zombie film and led to a wave of zombie-related stuff, including, of course, the Walking Dead TV series, but multiple films since. And that was written by Alex Garland and directed by Danny Boyle. And Alex Garland has gone on to be a considerable filmmaker in his own right, though I have trashed his last two movies, both war films. They did come back in 2007 with 28 Weeks Later, and then this one sat in development hell, which is 28 years later. But it does bring back Danny Boyle. I don't think Danny Boyle actually directed 28 Weeks Later, did he? I think he missed. No, he didn't do it. But both those films have remained pretty iconic. So this new film comes with a different paradigm in that the other ones have focused very much on the outbreak of the rage plague that decimated the United Kingdom. When we last left it, Imogen Poots, who's probably the worst character in movie history in this film, had taken the zombie plague to Europe. One of two astonishingly selfish acts that she did. But now we move forward 28 years. It's where basically communal living exists in the UK in these fortresses, where outside roaming the countryside are the zombies. And we get this beautiful looking place. I think it's an island off of Northumberland where, and the visual aspect of the design of the whole area is fantastic. But I think it's this walkway out from the mainland to an island that only exists for certain hours a day due to the tide. So it's really cool, the whole setup, and I think it's a real place. I'm not 100% sure. Another amazing part about the film is it was all filmed on iPhones. Incredible stuff, because the cinematography is probably its best point. Very widescreen, high definition, and beautifully colourful. So they said that it was a much better way of being able to be inside the environment without using big cameras and be able to film quickly and not put so much damage into these woodland environments and so on. But we get this community that is very much like a Wicker Man-esque pagan community that's living on this island and occasionally goes to the mainland to pick up wood for fuel and so on. And it's a very sort of, like Wicker Man sort of thing. They'll sit around carousing in the pubs at night and that kind of stuff. And Aaron Taylor-Johnson, who I've picked on a bit as an actor, I don't think he's been as good in anything else, really. I didn't think he was that good in Bullet Train or anything like that, and also in Craven, the Hunter from last year. But I don't think he's ever been not good. I just don't, saying he's the next James Bond, I just don't think he's had that X factor. But I liked his character here. His character's the dad of Alfie Williams, who plays Spike, a 12-year-old kid, and their mum, from the always outstanding Jodie Corner, is bedridden and seriously ill and mentally deranged for large periods. So there's this weird dynamic going on where the son isn't quite trusting of the dad, and the dad is trying to teach their son about how to kill zombies. Everyone uses bow and arrows in this film. There are no bullets. So they all go around with these bow and arrows, and he basically takes his son to the mainland to wet the sun, to basically give him his first kill. Which nearly goes horribly wrong. There are a couple of elements that are very different. One of them is the alpha zombie, not imaginatively named, and with massive swinging genitals, which is quite something to see on screen. Ginormously swinging genitals, which you do stare at the screen and go, what the hell? And these are supposedly more advanced versions of the zombies. And one thing that I did wonder is, how are these zombies existing in the wilderness? What are they existing on for 28 years? It all seemed a bit strange that they could live this long. But anyway, when they're on the mainland, the kid sees a fire in the distance, and the dad tells him that's this mad bloke played by Ralph Fiennes, who is Dr. Ian Kelson, who he paints as being this absolutely awful human being that, lines up bodies to burn in a furnace, a complete rabid anti-zombie ideologue that had gone beyond the bounds of human decency. And they go back to their little island, and the kid basically thinks, well, this guy's a doctor and they don't have any doctors, maybe he can save my mum. And so the rest of the movie is him taking his mother, who's very, very ill, to the mainland and finding this doctor. It's not a film, I think, that will satiate fans of the first two films. I know when the second film came back, it started with probably the most terrifying 20 minutes of any movie, an absolutely jaw-dropping opening sequence that was very difficult to watch. It was so tense. And though both those films have sort of followed on from that, building tension and so on, whereas this is a much more cerebral film. For better and for worse. And I think for better mostly. And I don't know that will satiate people looking for plagues of zombies. I think I always get annoyed at films that have a death count that's too high, so it becomes redundant. And that doesn't do that here, which I thought was a massive plus. On other sides of the film, I thought the characters were very well performed. I thought everyone was really good. Ralph Fiennes was a nice addition, and Jodie's relationship with her son, they were quite beautiful, actually. It was a very soulful film, unexpectedly. And a very unusual one. Like the paths that it took, I didn't really see coming per se. And we find out the truth about Ralph Fiennes, who's like completely different to how he's been painted. I just think it's a very messy film. I don't know that tonally and substance-wise everything knotted together very well. It did look magnificent. It really did look magnificent. And the whole soundtrack side of it, which I thought got off to a rocky start, by Young Fathers, I thought that improved as the film went on. The last scene is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know why that's in the film, but there's a Jimmy Savile cult, as in Jimmy Savile. There's a Jimmy Savile cult at the end, which completely is out of touch with the quite soulful, moving part with Ralph Fiennes, the mum and the son. That whole third of the film. It's just all a bit silly and goofy. And apparently this is the first in a trilogy. So I think we're going to follow on from the son. But it's an odd film. And I like the oddness. And maybe someone like Danny Boyle is one of the few directors where you just don't know what you're going to get. It might be awful or it might be brilliant. I think this is neither. I think this is quite a good film. It's just often too messy. I wonder if it's one I'll go back to and think is better a few months from now. So I'm going to give 28 Years Later a much better sequel than a lot of the ones we've been getting recently, which they seem to be screwing everything up. And also points for being a new paradigm in that 28 years universe. It's actually a very new and different kind of film. So I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. Which does sound like faint praise, but there are failings along the way, but there are also unusual successes. So 7 out of 10 for that. How much time have we got?